Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today talking about Obsidian's newly announced game, Grounded, which seems a bit divisive in the Obsidian community because the general expectation for this new announcement would be another RPG, considering that's all that Obsidian's ever done. But it seems that they're spreading their creative wings, they're flexing the muscles a little bit, and we're getting something different from this team. Now, let's begin everything you need to know about this new announcement with the most important piece of information that comes from Mikey Dowling, Director of Communications at Obsidian Entertainment, saying that 13 people are working on this game. 13 people. Obsidian reportedly has approximately 200 employees at the moment, according to multiple sources. Although a definitive number is not out there, that's still a very small percentage of their workforce handling this game that may or may not be up your alley. I think it looks pretty cool, but I know it's not for everybody. So just know this is not hindering the progression of other games that are much more interesting out of Obsidian than, we'll say, Fallout 76 did with Bethesda Game Studios. Furthermore, Obsidian's studio design director Josh Sawyer actually offered some additional comments after the announcement of Grounded. He iterated that this was a small team working on the game and that the studio features multiple teams who are naturally working on RPGs, which the company is known for, and there will be more to come in that field.
I know a lot of people associate our studio obviously with RPGs, but we do have multiple teams working on different things at different times. So you can expect to hear more about the RPGs we're working on in the future.
So they were very much making sure they were emphasizing, hey guys, look, this is something different, but we are in fact working on RPGs, don't worry. And I think with that information, now we can get into what the title actually is, which I'm sure you've already been able to tell with the trailer in the background. Grounded is a survival game with a co-op element. Essentially, it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the game. You're the size of an ant in a backyard, and that's indicated by objects placed around the world, such as broken up toys, a baseball that looks gargantuan, soda cans spread throughout, there's a spider web that you can hop on and use as a springboard, and much more. There also looks to be resource collecting, which is to be expected in any survival game, considering at one point in the trailer, we do see the player hacking at a leaf or something along those lines, similar to Fortnite with the pickaxe. Also, there's base building and blueprinting, which has a similar wireframe layout that Fortnite has. Dear God, I just compared an Obsidian game to Fortnite twice in a row. Overall, the universe for this game seems to be what separates it from others in its genre. But we don't know too much about the gameplay loop here, and the reason that's important to emphasize is because as we record this video on Thursday, November 14th, we don't have that additional information coming out on Friday during Inside Xbox, where they will likely show more of Grounded. We already know it's going to be there, and I'm sure we'll get more gameplay details. But as it stands so far, the universe seems to be what makes Grounded different from other games. The trailer ends telling us it's coming in spring 2020, and it was confirmed as well by Josh Sawyer during his comments after the announcement of Grounded that this will be a part of the Xbox Game Preview program and Game Pass as well. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber already, naturally Grounded will be coming your way. What's also interesting that Josh Sawyer said is that this game has been in development prior to the Microsoft purchase. Naturally, I think this was stated to indicate that Microsoft didn't just swoop in and change the course of Obsidian. This was something that they were already working on after they had completed Deadfire. And speaking of which, Grounded is led by the executive producer of Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, which I think is actually a very interesting mind to have behind a multiplayer game, considering it's an isometric RPG.
Yeah, so Grounded has actually been in development for a little over a year. It's a small team headed up by Adam Brennicke, who is the executive producer on Deadfire. The whole team is just really into survival games, and we want to see what we can bring to the genre. It's something that was in production before we became part of Microsoft, but once Microsoft saw it, they were really supportive of it moving forward.
So that's the bulk of the major details that came from the announcement. Now we naturally have to have a discussion about what Grounded is, why Obsidian's doing it, and why personally I'm a little more accepting of this compared to the announcement of Fallout 76 when it was an online RPG. See, the situation between Bethesda and Obsidian is vastly different. Just 3 mere weeks ago, as of the recording of this video, we had The Outer Worlds, which was everything I wanted that game to be. It's a fantastic single-player RPG with a lot of replayability, and I'm loving it. I'm still going back to it weeks after the fact, and even though I'm constantly talking about it in content, I still like playing it, which for me personally as a creator says a lot. So I know Obsidian still has their chops in the terms of a single player RPG, and they've shown that with Pillars and Tyranny, don't get me wrong. But for me personally, this was the most significant experience. So I'm willing to give them a little more leeway, especially with 13 people, for God's sakes, to try something new, because in fact, it could be cool, it could be fun, and I like the idea of Obsidian trying something new like this and not getting into a routine with RPGs. Whereas Bethesda released Fallout 4, which was a good game, but left a lot of the RPG elements to be desired, and so in turn, we wanted another crack at a traditional single-player RPG from Bethesda Game Studios to see if they could straighten things out and really respond to feedback like they did with Far Harbor. So when they announced an online survival RPG, it was like a oh dear God moment. Where are they heading with this franchise? And also, this was an established franchise that was known for being single player only, and then they changed it to something online, which didn't seem to fit the universe all that well, especially when we first started discussing it. Maybe the perspective's a little different now that people have been playing it for roughly a year. And funny enough, it's been just about a year since the launch of Fallout 76. Bethesda is celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Reclamation Day, and funny enough, Obsidian announced pretty much Grounded 76. This is hilarious, honestly. You can't make this stuff up. The way that these two are on such a pattern, and Obsidian just keeps trying to take their ideas, essentially, and do it themselves. Now, another reason I'm a little more light on this game than others is because I think it's awesome that this studio still has its creative freedom, even after being purchased by Microsoft. A lot of people were afraid that Obsidian always stood as independent and they did their own thing for so many years, and even if they had their crowdfund games, they still always served the consumer. And the second that Xbox gets their hands on them, we get an online survival game. I can understand why it looks a little fishy, but once again, Josh Sawyer did iterate that this was already being in development prior to their acquisition. But that's just perspective. How about facts? Well, there's a job listing posted on Obsidian's LinkedIn for an animation director that states they're making a AAA next-gen RPG. It mentions bringing humanoid and non-humanoid characters to life, so probably The Outer Worlds 2. I'm not concerned because I already know most of the team is either working on post-launch support for The Outer Worlds or The Outer Worlds 2 for next-gen consoles. And if you have 13 people working on Grounded, I could care less because honestly, it looks interesting to me at least. But also, this is the thing with a lot of gamers. People are going to complain without even knowing that Obsidian's already working on a next-gen game, and people are going to complain even though we just got an amazing RPG. Now, maybe The Outer Worlds didn't speak to you, and if Grounded doesn't speak to you, totally get that. I'm not arguing that point, but if people are just complaining because it's not another big single-player RPG, like, do you understand how game development and releases work? Honestly, my only disappointment really lies in that there's been no DLC announcement for The Outer Worlds. I'll be setting my sights personally now on the Game Awards. Maybe something else happens throughout XO19, but I was thinking that, especially since Grounded seems to be a smaller announcement for Obsidian, that they would also showcase the Outer Worlds DLC, because I think this could have offset some of the reception. People were naturally, even if I feel it wasn't realistic, hoping for another RPG from Obsidian, and they weren't going to get that, realistically speaking. So wouldn't it make sense to be like, hey, here's our roadmap for DLC for The Outer Worlds, and it's coming soon. You didn't even have to give it a date. Personally, I think the launch of The Outer Worlds itself is enough of a cushion to announce a title like this. I can understand why it's not a great look for Microsoft, and it seemed like they were more willing to reassure fans off the bat about things that they'd be worried about with Grounded rather than just talking about what Grounded is and why it may grab you. Apparently it's playable at an XO19, so we should be seeing a lot of the game inevitably. I don't think it's going to be anything that'll blow our socks off, but I'm interested in a brand new idea from Obsidian. It does seem to have a degree of jank. It does seem rough around the edges. It is in early access, so it can change over time. But I don't think this will be a smash hit for Obsidian right off the bat. I think it has to develop into something, and I'm curious to see more personally. I'm not shutting it out right now. Now, before we wrap things up, we're deep enough into the video where I can do a little Matty story time. You got all your information, so if you like me, you want to hear more of my voice, you enjoy it, maybe you're just doing homework, you're busy, whatever. I want to go ahead and give you guys one little negative thing I gotta pick on from Grounded. So this dates back to when Dauntless came out. I like Monster Hunter games every now and then, and I remember I fired this game up, saw the art style, went, oh boy, that reminds me of Fortnite. Went into the game menu, saw the battle pass, and immediately deleted this application from my system. And all I'm saying is I saw the blueprinting system, I saw a similar art style that just really grates my eyes, and that gets me a little nervous for Grounded. I think that's 90% of the reason I couldn't just fully buy in and go, okay, sweet, let's see something new, Obsidian. I'm willing to be open-minded, but I will say, I have a very dark history with these types of games and this type of art style. And this comes from someone who did like Fortnite when it first became popular. So take it as you will. But anyway, I'd love to hear from all of you, so fire away in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.